Hey there, I am back with another video, and today we're going to be exploring the top 5 Theory 11 decks of all time. Now, these are 3 of my honorable mention decks, but over the years, Theory 11 has done dozens of different decks, ranging from your more standard classic decks all the way up to fully custom decks that highlight some of the most exciting intellectual properties that are out there in the world today. And I'm a big fan. All of the decks have something in common, and that is their entry price points and the luxury elements that they add, particularly to their tuck boxes. And for that reason, they're sort of responsible for getting a lot of people, including myself, into the luxury playing card market. So Theory 11 is always going to hold a special place for me. And I did a video years ago, probably 3 years ago, where I talked about my top 5 decks. But in that time, Theory 11 has done so many other decks, and my own tastes have evolved. So really excited to revisit the question and see who my top 5 decks are here in 2022. But let's get started talking about the honorable mention. The first one here is probably my favorite IP out of any of them that Theory 11's worked with to date, and that is Star Wars. In particular, I chose the red version. Now there's, I think at this point, 5 different versions. There's red, blue, white, black, and now the silver version of the deck, or the gold version, I should say. And all of them have kind of the same design, but this particular one is my favorite with the red. I think the red and the black is a really nice contrast. But like so many other Theory 11 decks, features that beautiful embossed tuck box and so many different elements, the lightsabers and the TIE fighter down there, just lots of different elements from Star Wars that you can pick up all over the place. And the cards themselves are really beautiful as well. The card illustrations, the back design, so-so. I think I could use a little bit more pops of color, but what really sells it for me are those jokers and the court cards. The court cards here drawn by Russ Gray, and he did a fantastic job capturing those classic characters in playing card form. And look at that Darth Vader, for example. You can see him almost doing the Force choke with his hand there as he looks on menacingly. Just a really great set of illustrations and some really cool kind of understated aces there with the images of the ship sort of superimposed on top. All in all, really fun deck, really well put together, and of course I'm going to have a few bonus points for anything with Star Wars on it. So that's the first one of the honorable mentions. The second one kind of follows with the intellectual property theme, this one going after arguably the most famous band of all time with the Beatles. Again, this one comes in 4 different versions, but the blue version is my favorite on this one. And a lot of it has to do with the vibrant colors that are used on this one. The blue, along with the red and the gold foil, is just a great, super bright looking pop. And again, the tuck box is done absolutely beautifully. The embossing and everything on here just really elevates this to the next level. Love that little custom tuck seal. And the cards themselves feature some really bright colors as well. The back design, beautiful and detailed, and the colors as you go through the cards are just really impressive. And as you flip through them, you'll even see little references to some of the songs. If you're a big Beatles fan, you may be able to pick up on some of their well-known songs that are captured in the court cards. If you're a little bit less of a fan, you may pick up just on the faces of some of the band members that are contained within as well. But it's a really fun deck, great use of color throughout this one, and definitely why this one stands out for me. Even though I wasn't myself the biggest Beatle fan of all time, this deck really is a winner and one worth checking out for sure. And then the third of my honorable mention goes to the classic side with medallions. This is a much older deck, but one that you can still get a hold of, but it features a beautiful, luxurious tuck box, gold foil, and the embossing detail on this one is just really, really well executed. Lots of fine details, even the little blind bits here that aren't foiled. Everything on here just gives the tuck box a really luxury feel to it. And the cards are beautifully done as well. These are designed in France and have a really just elegant classic feel to them, particularly that back design with the gold metallic inks. Now, if there is one drawback on this deck, it's going to be the court cards, and that's the one thing that I don't really love on this one. They're definitely patterned after your classic court cards, but with some upgrades. I do like the gold metallic inks and the little extra elements like the key here in the Jack's hand, but on a few of them, the faces I think just look a little bit off. So that's the one thing that just sort of holds this one back for me. But every time I pick up this tuck box, I think that's really the thing that jumps out to me. and just helps to elevate this deck more than many of the other Theory 11 decks. So anyway, that's my 3 honorable mention, but let's get into the top 5. At number 5 on the list is Union. Now, this is an older deck in Theory 11's line and a bit of an underappreciated one in my book, but it's a fantastic one that's worth a look. It's inspired by the American Civil War. You can see that American flag in the back with the classic Civil War era saber running down the middle. And the copper foils on this one really serve to enhance that tuck box quite a bit. It's a very clean, kind of more modern feel to it overall. The big bold lines and the dramatic effects that it's able to create on the tuck box. And that same aesthetic is carried over to the cards themselves. Uses metallic inks to give you that little bit more luxury feel to the cards themselves. Just really, really nicely done with the art style. I love the eagle on the background. It's really, really nice back design to the cards. But my favorite part on these has to be the cast of characters that are featured in the court cards. Again, done in that really bold style with the thick lines. And you get an entire cast and variety of characters, each one of the court cards featuring, somebody you may have found from the Civil War era, generals, soldiers, things like that. Really nicely illustrated and really gives kind of an interesting look through as you kind of flip through the court cards. I'm a big fan of the art style on this one, and the entire aesthetic just really stands out as something different in Theory 11's line. And so this one, like I said, really underappreciated, not one that you hear talked about as much as many of the other decks that Theory 11 has, but in my book, every bit as good as any of those, and one worth checking out if you get a chance. So if you haven't seen Theory 11's Union deck before, go check this one out. You won't be disappointed. But that's just number 5, so let's get on to the rest of the list. Number 4 on the list takes the cake for arguably the most ornate deck that Theory 11 has ever done. This one is Contraband. It's a magnificent tuck box that kind of captures the feel of mystery that's meant to be the theme of the deck overall. Tons of little details on here, little symbols to pick up on all over the place, and a nice subtle embossing that gives it just a little bit of enhancement. And the back of the tuck box is, if possible, even more ornate. Just an explosion of detail on this one. But it's not just the tuck box with its interior foiling there that stands out. It's the cards themselves as well. The back design, even though it's all just done black and white, has a beautiful styling to it and so many little details to pour through. I mean, you can get out a magnifying glass and look over this forever and just continue to find extra little details. And the cards are impressive as well, whether it's the jokers, the aces in this one are particularly amazing. I mean, look at that ace of spades, the beautiful artwork that's done on this one. And surprisingly, the court cards kind of have almost a standard vibe to them. But for me, just something about these, it just has this, classic nostalgic feel that still manages to capture the mystery. And even though there's a lot more white space on the court cards, there's still lots of details that really kind of pop out as you go through the clothing, like there's a little key on the necklace or the snakes curling up the side. Everything hinting at little secrets and mystery throughout. The real standout in these, though, is the aces. All 4 aces feature just absolutely amazing detail, and as you zoom in further and further, you'll pick up all sorts of little details through every one of them. So I'll flip over here and you can see the ace of clubs. Again, magnificent detail. And there's the ace of hearts. But just so much to like on this one. This is the most ambitious design I think that Theory 11's ever done, from the foiling and everything on this one, and they pulled it off beautifully. So this is an absolute gem of a deck, one that everybody should have in their collection. Highly recommended, but we still have more to get to, so let's keep on with the list. At number 3 is Tavern on the Green. This deck was designed by the legendary Kevin Cantrell and was done in collaboration with the Tavern on the Green in New York City. And what really stands out about this one is the tuck box. This is probably my favorite tuck box that Theory 11 has ever done. The green tuck with the gold and green foils just really looks absolutely elegant all the way through, and it carries in tons of motifs from the famous Tavern on the Green. Really, really nicely done. Just has this super luxury feel all the way around. And you do get some interior foiling as well, so the luxury continues both inside and out. The cards themselves are really nicely done as well. Now, I will say the back design is probably the one drawback of this one. I love the green and white on this one. I think it's really nice, but it does end up looking a little bit monotone. I think it could use a little bit more pops of color on this one to really stand out. That said, the cards themselves on the faces really make up for it for me. Kevin Cantrell always does an amazing job with his super ornate detailing, and this deck is no exception. Gold metallic inks used throughout, custom pips, and really, really fun, detailed kind of 1920s era court cards. If you've seen Kevin Cantrell's other decks, you'll recognize his style immediately. It is fantastic. I love the work that he does on his cards. Just the really fine details all throughout. A really beautiful, elegant, elevated deck all throughout. So for these fantastic court cards, as well as the absolutely amazing job that they did on the tuck box, this deck easily makes its way into my top 3. But we're at top 3, that means there's 2 more to go, so let's keep the list going. Number 2 on the list, and we come to Harry Potter. And for me, I chose the blue version of the deck because I'm a big Ravenclaw fan myself. Now, everyone in the world at this point probably knows what Harry Potter is all about. The famous book series, become movies, has just sort of taken over the world, and so finally makes its way into a fully licensed deck of playing cards. And the result is amazing. A stunning tuck box with all sorts of little details for fans of the books or the movies to pick out. You can see all 4 of the houses of Hogwarts represented, the beautiful image of Hogwarts in the back, and the multiple colors of foiling just help to give a depth to the tuck box. It's absolutely amazingly done. Beautiful detailing on the back of the tuck box as well, and like all the best Theory11 decks, some nice interior printing as well. But the fun doesn't stop there. The cards themselves are really, really well done. Starting with the back design, you get that same explosion of detail. So much going on. And unlike some of the other decks where the monochrome just sort of makes the design feel flat, for me, this one still manages to feel like it has some depth, some little variations within it. But just a really beautifully and ornately illustrated back design. And the cards and the jokers are super well done as well. In particular, the Ace of Spades has got to be one of my favorite Ace of Spades images that has ever been done for any deck. Featuring Hogwarts in the back and that image of Hedwig in the front, just fantastic illustration through and through. And of course, you're going to get court cards that feature some of the characters that we all know and love from the Harry Potter series. Really well done. The court cards were illustrated by Russ Gray, who for me does some of the best court cards anywhere out there. And of course, where would the deck be without the King of Hearts, Harry Potter himself? Just a fantastic deck for any Harry Potter fan. I think this is a must-have. And even if you're not really a fan of Harry Potter, this deck is nice enough for you to appreciate as well. So, no-brainer deck in my mind. The Harry Potter deck is a fantastic achievement. You can get it in all 4 colors, representing the 4 different houses of Hogwarts. No matter which one you get, you can't go wrong with this one. But let's see which one was the one deck to beat it and to take the crown as the top Theory11 deck of all time. Well, here we are. We've gotten to the top of the mountain for the number 1 Theory11 deck of all time with Provision. This deck is fantastic. It's not as ornate as some of the other decks on the list, but it is what I would call a more atmospheric deck. Has beautiful styling to it and a great mixture of kind of a modern art style, but at the same time using color and art to really capture a vintage feel overall. right from the tuck box. I love the sort of slate gray color that's chosen for the stock here, and those bright oranges and the gold foil, as well as the sort of cream color there in the background, really gives it that vintage vibe overall. Almost looks like an advertising deck of some sort. Really well done. Love the little artwork, the snakes that you'll see repeated all throughout, and those pops of orange just really stand out on this one. It's a great color scheme to the tuck box, really great vintage feel to it. Of course, you get some nice interior printing with the Theory11 logos there, but the cards themselves really live up to things as well. The orange color on the back here is striking and just really nicely incorporated into the deck overall. And again, some really nice artwork that kind of gives you that vintage vibe that much more. The snake motif carried forward again to the back design. The cards themselves on the faces have really fun style of artwork as well that really fits in. All of the cards are custom. You can see the custom shape to the pips there, and the sort of understated vibe that everything has. Love the little inclusion of the name of the card there, the 4-4 in the corner, in the opposite corners. It just gives everything a really fun, quirky vibe. And the court cards are really, really nicely illustrated as well. These are things that feel like they could have been pulled out as some, I don't know, old illuminated book or something like that in the past. Just a really cool style that was chosen for the artwork. And again, sort of mixing old with new to produce this deck. Really fun style to it overall. And I love how well the theme's carried through the entire deck. To me, this is an almost perfect deck of cards from Theory11. And like so many of their other decks, one that can be had for just 10 bucks. So in Theory11's line, there's so many great decks, but for me, the one that takes the cake is Provision. So that's why it is my #1 deck. And there you have it, from 5 all the way down to 1, my top 5 Theory11 decks of all time. There are dozens to choose from, so maybe you think my list is terrible, maybe you have some favorites of your own. So let me know down in the comments what your favorite Theory11 decks are, because I think there are so many fantastic ones to choose from. But that's my list. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.